In this video, I'm going to show you how to connect to your Firelight panel. First, you want to open your PS tools, and you want to make sure you have a cable connected to your Firelight panel, which is a USB to a printer style cable. You want to select your upload download option, and then you're going to hit upload download under that option. And then you get this screen here. Before you connect, you want to go to your connection settings. And you want to make sure your COM mode is set to USB of these three options because you're using a USB connection. And then you will auto detect. I'm not currently connected to the panel, so I won't get any information. And you just hit close. That way up here it's going to reflect the USB connection. And then from here you would connect to the panel. Now this will have more information if I was actually connected to a Fire panel. And then from here you go to view uploaded files. Or view configuration file, whichever works. This has my history. I'm going to do view configuration file first. And these are all my current settings for this panel. Takes a few seconds to load up. You have your communication settings information, you have central station, you have your information, you have the number of rings to answer when a signal goes out, your panel ID, your trouble call limit, basically how many troubles come in before it gets reported to central station, your reporting style, whether it's a point or a zone, your CS backing report, which is first available, your phone line 2 supervision enabled or disabled, and your phone line 1 and 2 tone is set to touch tone on both. You have your primary central station with your phone number, communication format, your account code, and your test time interval, 24 hours, and then what time the test will happen. At this point, 5 a.m. And then you have your event codes and their values. And under your secondary central station, you have the same options. Different number, but everything else is pretty much the same. Then you have your inputs and outputs, starting with your relay zones. You have your zone numbers here. Your zone type, where you can set to pull station, water flow, smoke, heat, duct. You got your enable disables and your zone auto message when it reports. And you can change the relays, whether you want it to be an alarm, supervisory, trouble, whichever. And these are different relays. You have your NACs, whether you want to have NAC 1 enabled or disabled. And whenever you click one of these options, you'll get a brief description of what it does down here in the bottom left corner. You have your NAC 1 1-minute silence, where your NACs will automatically silence themselves after 1 minute. You have your NAC silenceable, which if you unclick, it will not silence the NACs if you hit the silence button on the panel. So make sure this box is checked so that way you can silence from the panel. And a couple options. You have an auto silence feature where after 5 minutes, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, the NACs will automatically silence themselves. You have your coding, which is the tone that the horn will make, whether it's a steady tone, a march tone, California, or temporal. Some tones will be just a consistent noise, some will be a 1, 2, 3 tone, and some will just continually just be being every second until it gets silenced. You have your type code, whether it's a horn, a strobe, or a sync strobe. You have your synchronization types, whether it's system sensor, wheel lock, or Gentex, whichever model of horn strobe it is. Then you have the same options for NAC 2, 3, and 4. You have your general system settings, where you could set timer delays. So you have the water flow retard chamber delay. The water flow switch already has its own built-in delay, but you can set another delay for the panel, and you could say you want to delay it for an additional 30 seconds after the water flow comes in. or you can keep it at 0. You have your trouble reminder enabled, or if this is checked after you silence the panel, whether it's for a trouble or alarm, the signal will come back in and continue beeping. So if you wanted to silence that, you would uncheck. That way you can continue doing silent testing without being just interrupted. You have your water flow devices, whether you want them to be silenced or not. You have the Canadian option, which says down here, enabling Canadian option will allow the programmer to configure the system automatically monitor addressable ionization smoke detector sensitivity using Canadian specifications. You have your daylight savings time, the week and month to start it, and the week and month to end it. You have your clock format, 12 or 24 hour, loop style 4 or 6, loop protocol. You have your banner display, so you can make it say whatever you want when the system's normal. So we'll make it say hello. You have your option modules. You have your enunciator settings. You have your global settings. You can enable and disable primary and secondary enunciator. You enable it. You can enable the ports and printer supervision. You could enable the LED options, whether you want the annunciator to be lit up when it has a trouble or alarm. You have your lamp test enable button, whether you want to disable or enable it. You have your silence button, whether you want to enable or disable it. You have the actual sounder, whether you want it to beep or not when a signal comes in. You have the reset button, whether you want to enable and disable. And you have your drill button, whether you want to enable, disable. And same with the lock, acknowledge, and silence buttons. You can disable all those buttons from the enunciator, or you can leave them all enabled. Then you have your primary and secondary address options. You have your device lists. This one, currently the system just has one smoke for the under the detector list. And under the modules, this has 4 modules under the module list, so a total of 5 devices for this system. You could verify your setup after you've done an installation or reprogram. You can make sure all the modules are correctly programmed to the devices. You could run a simulation, and you could do a tabular view or graphical view. You can click show, and basically you will click your device and it'll highlight which NACs will go off, and you could change the NAC styles. And each of these, since this panel only has 2 NACs currently active, only NAC 1 and 2 light up when you click on the devices. And since these are tamper switches, the NACs do not go into alarm. These just send supervisory signals. And then you can click stop when you're done. And then you have your walk test history and system status. So to get to those, you have to exit out. Ask if you want to say, I'll say no. So you would hit history, walk test, or date and time, and you would upload. Now, again, since I'm not connected, this won't light up, but I would click history and then I'll click upload from panel, and then new information would populate in the section here. And then if I want to view that, I'd go to view uploaded files. And this has all my information down here at the bottom, the history and the system status. And I can do a walk test because I don't have it enabled. So my history, I could view everything that happened on here, all the silencing, disable, enabling, and the testing of devices. And then I could get system data. I could see currently my AC power's on, my fire alarms, I'm in fire alarm and I have a trouble on the panel. And it'll tell me I have NAC faults. It'll tell me the device that's currently active, which is the smoke detector. And then it has detector sensitivity data right here, as well as telling me the charging voltage, the resettable power, the non-resettable power, the battery volts, and then the NAC open faults. And you can see it's a 24-volt system because it's sending 24 volts because it is currently in alarm. And that's some information on how you, when you connect to the panel, things you can do to test.